Hey guys, this is going to be just a very, very quick video. Remember, in addition to watching this and doing your study guide, you also have that Ed puzzle over the Truman Doctrine, where you just watch the YouTube video and answer the questions I've thrown in there for you guys. So, with that being said, no better slide to start than with the Truman Doctrine. Okay, so this was the policy that our president at the time, Harry Truman, came up with. So there's a lot going on, and the video tells you more, so I'm not going to go into all the details. But at this time in the world, okay, you have a civil war in Greece, and we're afraid that it's going to fall to communism. And then in Turkey, okay, the Soviets are kind of poking their nose around Turkey because, as the video tells you, the Soviets want access to Turkish ports for the oil that they are drilling in Iran. Okay, so the Truman Doctrine, in light of all these things, Truman makes an address to Congress. He says, "We will do whatever it takes to defeat communism." So we are going to give monetary aid. There it goes. Monetary aid to these places, to prevent them from falling to communism. That's just the gist of it. Okay. And then if you're a visual person, here's a good picture of it. You have this virus of communism that's just looming over the European continent, and Truman in this nice little hot air balloon. And what is he doing to blanket all of Europe and prevent it or save it from the virus of communism? That's right. He's making it rain. He's making money drop all over Europe to prevent it from falling to communism. So anytime you need like a visual for the Truman Doctrine, just think about this picture, and that's all it's about. Is Truman blanketing all of Europe with money to try to prevent it from falling into the hands of the Soviets. Speaking of money, Marshall Plan. Okay, so our Secretary of the State at the time, George Marshall, who was one of the main commanders during World War II for us, but now he is Truman's Secretary of State. And the Marshall Plan was to try and help Europe get back on its feet, basically. So, because you have to think, a lot of this brutal fighting, has occurred across the European landscape, not just during World War II, but during World War One. Really, since 1914, in a 30-year span, Europe has just been like demolished. I mean, people have seen the horrors of war come right to their doorsteps, and their towns have been destroyed, their fields have been destroyed, everything's gone. And that's the advantage that the United States had in both world wars. Obviously, we didn't have to put up with that, but Europe did. So the Marshall Plan was where the United States was going to talk through with some of these countries, figure out what they needed, and send them money. So they would, the European countries would coordinate. They would talk with one another and figure out, okay, like, Great Britain really took a hit with the Blitz of London, where they were really trying to get the British to surrender to the Nazis. They may need the help a little more than maybe, say, Norway or whatever. Okay, but the Marshall Plan was that we were going to try to prop Europe up, and outside of the goodness of our hearts and just trying to help the world recover from the war, what might have been our motivations for doing this? It's all about the economy. Okay, if the European economies are not doing so hot, then that in turn will impact the United States economy. I mean, the Great Depression was something that was felt all around the world, and whenever like Germany's economy was in the tank after World War One, that did not do us any favors in leading up to the Great Depression. So a happy, healthy European economy is good for us as well. However, the Soviet Union prevented a lot of these Eastern European countries like Czechoslovakia, Poland, and Hungary from attending this like conference where they were going to dole out all these funds to be sent over. And this is a big blow to Eastern Europe, and it makes them lean on the crutch of the Soviet Union a little bit more than Western Europe does, because Western Europe bounces back. Okay, they bounce back big time with all this funds that the United States sends, and ultimately it gets their industry capability back up to record levels, and these factories are churning things out just like the United States. Not quite at that level, but as far as like per capita, yeah, they back. Okay, Marshall Plan. So this shows you about Stalin and the USSR. Here's the Marshall Plan, and normally in my room I do this with the goal. The Marshall Plan, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming to save Europe and help it recover. And standing at the rim with his mustache is Mr. Stalin, who is about to block this and send it back. Okay. So what happened to Germany after World War II? Before I click, just think. Okay, we talked about it. This was the agreement that they came to at Yalta. Okay, the big three. Stalin of all people, and Churchill and FDR all agreed to at Yalta. So what were we going to do with Germany after World War II? And the answer is we were going to split it up. Okay, and it was going to be split up and administered into four zones that would be administered by all the Allies during the war. Okay, the problem is here's where it gets a little dicey. Okay, we also split the city of Berlin itself up. You guys see this little zoom in on Berlin. We actually split Berlin up as well. Well, the city is split, right? West Berlin is controlled by the Allies, by France, Great Britain, and the United States. But around the city of West Berlin itself is entirely Soviet territory. And this is going to become an issue for many reasons. First off, West Berlin, East Berlin, this is how we get the Berlin Wall. It was built by the Soviets during the height of the Cold War in the 60s, and it's a gosh darn wall that would prevent anybody from East Berlin who wanted to escape the communist regime from going to capitalism and democracy in West Berlin. So you're talking about a city that it's literally like a difference between night and day. Like in the same city, what was once the same city, you have East Berlin, that's all communist, oppressive government, and then you have West Berlin, that's like capitalism and democracy. I mean, just literally across town. But this wall that was built, the Berlin Wall, was built by the Soviets to physically divide East Berlin and West Berlin. The Berlin airlift, though. So Stalin got an idea. Okay, he was going to block all land routes into West Berlin. Okay, he blocked the rail, he blocked the roads, he even blocked major waterways into Berlin. He thought that if he blocked all these supplies from getting into West Berlin, that the whole city would fall to the Soviet Union. Now, why is he so worried about Berlin? Well, Berlin is the capital of Germany. So the Allies have control of, or excuse me, I keep saying the Allies, but technically the Soviets were an ally. But Great Britain, the United States, and France all have control of West Germany, right? Like we saw on this map right here. So Stalin hopes that if he blocks these supplies from going into West Berlin, that the entire country of Germany will fall into Soviet hands. Because that's why he wants the city to fall. It's the capital of Germany. The capital falls, therefore the country falls as well. To get rid of this situation, to solve this problem, the American and British forces come together and they decide to fly supplies into West Berlin. Okay, ultimately they keep the people of West Berlin from starving. Okay, and this is a huge, huge major move because ultimately the Soviets aren't willing to shoot the planes down because they don't want this to escalate into this major conflict. Obviously, we're on the heels of World War II, and nobody wants it to escalate into the horrors and the terrors that we have seen. I mean, especially the Soviets. The Soviets, you're talking about an unseen amount of death and destruction that the Soviet army endured. They don't want to do that again. So the second that the American planes and the British planes are flying into West Berlin, Soviets think about doing something. They don't. And ultimately, the Soviets end up lifting the blockade, and this is seen as the first major victory for the Western countries, okay, and for capitalism. This is kind of funny. Look, you have Truman and the planes all flying over West Germany to get to Berlin, and Stalin's there, and he's shaking his fist, and he looks very angry. Same picture here. Coal and food, all these things are being brought in by storks, okay? And Stalin's trying to shoot it, but he's not going to. And that is everything. So, yeah, again, do the Ed puzzle, do your study guide for your test, and if you have any questions, let me know. Y'all have a great weekend, and go Cats!